Good evening, San Diego. I'm Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis, and thank you for tuning in for your CBS 8 Plus weather update. And what a difference today made. We had westerly winds picking up. It knocked down our temperatures. Around the afternoon hours yesterday, we had widespread 80s across the inland valleys. We were back into the 70s. Even some areas that were in the upper 80s were into the low 70s for today, like Valley Center as well as for Ramona. 76 degrees for Escondido for today. The average high for this time of the year is 79 across the inland valleys. So we did have some below seasonal temperatures for today, and then an even bigger gap when it comes to temperatures yesterday. So 10 to 15 degrees cooler, and that's across inland areas. A little bit more subtle right along the coast, but we also had some of those upper 60s for daytime highs for Carlsbad as well as for Encinitas, and average highs around this time of the year, actually the mid 70s. So taking a hit with our temperatures because of westerly winds with an area of low pressure moving in. We'll continue to have those westerly winds in the upper levels, and so that will steer in more of the cloud cover with a deepening of the marine layer. It was patchy at best this morning. Didn't see any wet weather, but we are looking at it extending more so inland as we go from tonight through tomorrow morning with a deepening of the marine layer. That also leads to the potential of seeing that patchy fog developing across the inland valleys, not as shallow marine layer like we've had, where it's been more focused closer towards the coast and metro cities. Also near normal temperatures, so near average for the next couple of days. Tomorrow still a little below, just a little bit warmer by tomorrow, but still a little below seasonal. It's until we get to about Friday. By Friday, that's when we start to get closer to that average range, and then you're talking about cooler temperatures over the weekend with a bigger warm up that's in store for next week. We have winds that picked up for today, all because of the passage of that low pressure system. The strongest ones were across the desert. Wind advisory will keep going until midnight. You had sustained wind speeds about 25-35 miles per hour with those stronger gusts upwards of about 45 to 55 miles per hour for the desert. And just kind of put things in perspective, west of the mountains, we only had those gusts into the teens and 20s. So that's why we did not have the wind advisory in effect. It was a weather impact alert day just for the desert in our county. When we look at those overnight lows, widespread 50s across the inland valleys. We're also seeing some of those 40s popping up for Ramona as well as for Campo. 40s right there across the mountains. 59 degrees expected for Borrego Springs, and a warmer overnight low when you compare the desert to downtown at 62 degrees. Also expecting 62 degrees for Encinitas. When you get into your highs for tomorrow, as I mentioned, a little bit warmer just by a hair, and that's when we're looking at those 70s yet again. So still talking about 70s for most of our temperatures tomorrow. 71 degrees for downtown, 69 degrees expected for Carlsbad again, and then you also have 75 degrees for Escondido, 71 for Julian, 89 degrees for the desert. When we look at the surf forecast, pretty consistent with what we had yesterday, about 2 to 4 feet and a moderate risk of rip currents at our local beaches. So the low moves out, a weak ridge of high pressure builds in, so that allows our temperatures to be warming all the way through about Friday. And then over the weekend, we start to see that ridge flatten out a little bit more. A westerly breeze picks up. We have an area of low pressure is going to be well towards the north of us. You can see the color change, very cold air impacting for the Pacific Northwest. For us, that low moves through, it just triggers gusts again picking up, especially for the mountains and the desert as we get right back into the weekend, and that allows our temperatures to cool across the county again, just by a few degrees. But I want to go ahead and set the clock all the way to Tuesday of next week. Area of low pressure moves in over the weekend. Right about there on Tuesday. So you're talking about impacting with scattered showers across the Dakotas. You have this area of high pressure that starts to build in right behind that. You have another low that's going to be moving in across the Pacific. Because of these two low pressure systems, they're on either side of this ridge. So the ridge has nowhere else to go but up. So it amplifies that ridge even more. That's why we're looking at more of a warm up in our forecast by next week. So it's going to be subtle with the warming by Friday with an area of low pressure, or excuse me, high pressure. It's going to be a weak one, but then you have a more amplified ridge by next week, so that allows those temperatures to go above seasonal for this time of the year, and even the potential that we could get some of the inland valleys into the low 90s. So when you look at the extended forecast, you got the low 70s for the coast all the way through the start of next week. Then you have those 70s returning for the coast. So when we're talking about 70s, I'm talking about the upper 70s returning. We haven't said that for a while. So we're going to get right back into some heat for Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. 76 degrees for the inland valleys by tomorrow. Then you're looking at the 80s on Friday, but it's going to be the low 80s, a little bit of a dip in temperatures over the weekend, and then you're back into those upper 80s, potentially even some low 90s by Tuesday and Wednesday. You have 69 degrees for the mountains for tomorrow. back into the 70s into the start of the weekend, back into the 80s by Wednesday of next week. And for the desert, you have the upper 80s for Thursday. Then you're back into the 90s to start off the weekend. You have a little bit of a break in back to those 80s by about Sunday and Monday. Then those 90s right around the corner yet again. And remember, that's into the final stretch of October. So we're going to feel a little bit of heat before we wrap up this month. I hope you have a great night, and thanks for tuning in.